is about snow shoveling, but I think it's more about living with snow. So I'm going to give it a new title. My name is Beth Commerce. I have the honor and privilege of serving the city and serving the community as the Deputy Director in Human Rights and Equal Economic Opportunity. It's a mouthful. I have to slow down when I say it. We affectionately refer to our department as HERO. I'm joined by three of my colleagues today. I'm going to pass the microphone and let them introduce themselves, and then we'll begin with questions. I have a few questions to start us off, and then we'll take questions from the audience. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Angie Weesey, Director of Safety and Inspections, and my job is to make sure that our team can get out in the field and help our residents and our visitors be successful in the things that they want to do in our city.
So I'm Tom Eckstein, a representative of the Aging Advisory Committee on Aging for the mayor. So we're basically a group of either seniors or those that work with seniors that weigh in on subjects relative to aging successfully in the community. So one thing I will promote is somewhere around here, we used to have a little resource guide. One of the first projects we did was just very simply, we found out many people didn't have access to computers and just needed a list of phone numbers of who to call when you need help. So that's floating around here somewhere. And right there it is, oh thanks. And that's kind of what the committee does. And we're also looking for new members, people that are interested in helping age successfully in the city.
Good afternoon. I'm Carrie Sheldon, and I am the chair of the Mayor's Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities.
Terrific. We'll start with the first question. My colleagues don't know that this question's coming. I didn't prepare them for it. But from your perspective, what does the first snowfall mean to you?
When we hear in the forecast is when we really start getting excited and wanting to make sure that all of our team are prepared. They know what's expected of them, and also just double, triple checking on what we've done so far for communication and to the community on what's expected of them as well.
Since I'm not officially with St. Paul, I get to have fun with the first snow. Since we're just advisory committee, I mean, I love snow. I love being in winter. So snow for me is kind of the start of a new season that I just love being around. So.
Well, my first reaction is, what a beautiful sight. But then get out, what a beautiful sight. But then when I get out there, uh-oh, I can't get around. What do I do?
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. I want to ask my colleagues up here to describe how they typically move about the city. And I will start with the way that I move about the city. I'm either on my feet walking or I'm in a car. And I will say that I feel very privileged because for the first time in my life, at 52, I now have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and it is amazing. So I definitely take some things for granted now that I didn't before. So.
Very good perspective. I drive a little tiny economy car that is low to the ground, and so traversing particularly on to and from work. I'm in downtown every day, and so predominantly by vehicle to get there, and then after I get there I like to stay put and walk everywhere else. So making sure that I have at least 3 different pairs of shoes at work, because you never know what the day might bring, and so I'm able to successfully get to where I need to be.
Yeah, they're good. So I drive, I bike, and I walk. Now biking, I don't do in much deep snow. The little snow is not bad. And then when the city gets around to the Parks and Rec, starts actually grooming trails, skiing.
My main way of getting around is in my wheelchair, and I usually, in the wintertime, I usually have to use Metro Mobility. Sometimes, in some areas, I'm able to wheel, but when the snow is too deep, I can't get it around, and I can't use the bus or the train, so I'm gonna have to use Metro Mobility.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Tom and Angie. Have any of you ever had to miss a scheduled appointment, miss work, or something that was important to you because of someone else's unshoveled sidewalks? And if so, could you just tell us a little bit about that experience and how it impacted your life?
Oh, okay. I'll start. Um, I think I have had to miss at least one appointment because I was the medical driver was late getting to me because of the snow, and then I had to cancel because I couldn't reschedule. So then I just had to go back home. That's But other than that, I've really never had to miss any appointments.
I guess there's been several times I got stuck. I don't know if it's sidewalk versus actually more of the times you get stuck is I don't know what they call it, the windrow from the plows at the end of the alley. I mean, because a small car, you go up, I mean, you get to float on top of them, sit there for a while, no wheels touching, till you shovel it out. So.
Myself, I have not missed an appointment from Sidewalks, but as an employer, and most of our team is out in the field performing inspections throughout the day, and we've had people who've slipped and fall on the sidewalk, and therefore need to stop doing inspections while they probably go to the doctor. Sometimes maybe stitches, maybe just some bruising, but finding other folks to cover so that we still can maintain the service that we provide in the city.
So I just want to ask a question specifically of Carrie. Carrie said that she often takes Metro Mobility when she can't wheel herself. She takes Metro Mobility. And I don't know about many of you, but I'm not real familiar with the inner workings of Metro Mobility. But Carrie, how does it work? You request a ride. Do they pick you up within a window of time? Can you just describe what that's like to utilize Metro Mobility, just so we all understand?
Okay, if you have an appointment, you have to call at least a day ahead of time in order to get somewhere. Other the furthest you can call is 4 days in advance, it's but if you can help it, I mean, if you can help it, it's 4 days in advance. But you can wait to at least the day before.
So a snow occasion, what was the exact phrase that Lisa, a snow event for a community member who utilizes Metro Mobility is really different than it is for me when I go outside and hop in my now four-wheel drive, 10-year-old four-wheel drive vehicle. Um, Carrie has to do a lot of thought that I don't have to do, that I take for granted. And so the burden of our not shoveling or not getting around to or making the decision that I'll just get it after work because that's easier for me can really impact some of our neighbors who utilize public transportation in a different way. And that for me, every time I talk to Carrie about snow, that's really something that's elevated for me is the impact on Carrie when she's trying to move about at the mercy of Metro Transit or Metro Mobility, and just it impacts her life that she has had to plan for in a different way than I have. So just some food for thought there. I want to shift gears and just ask Tom a question. And Tom has a public health background. So a question that he wanted us to discuss was, well, can I shovel health wise?
And first thing is ask your doctor. So, but what I wanted, I just looked up something not saying about it. I think Mayo had some really great ideas about how you consider whether you shovel or not, and how you consider about shoveling. I wanted to share with you. And one of the first one they put on is be heart conscious. There's actually cardiologists that say if you're over 45, you got to really make sure you want to shovel if you're healthy, stuff like so. That's the first one Mayo says. Then the other one says is dress for the weather. I mean, I've gone by and seen people out there in almost shorts shoveling. That not good idea. Drink plenty of water, even though it's winter. Drink plenty of water. The fourth one they have is warm up before you shovel. You know, stretch, stuff like that, rotate stuff. That just is important. Then watch out for ice, obviously, because it's especially here in Minnesota, we quite often get ice before we get snow, and it's invisible. Take it slow, and then there's some specific things: is watch, protect your back. So I mean, use your hip, use your legs, stuff like that. Protect your back from shoveling, and also be careful of shoulder strain. Small shovel scoops are better than big shovel scoops. Another one that said is, you know, you really should push snow, not lift snow if you can. That's what all the plows do. None of them lift snow. Everyone pushes snow, and that's a good thing to do for yourself too. Then Mayo kind of wraps it up by listen to your body. So if you're aching, you know, stop. Be careful around machinery. I mean, I'm sure everybody's in emergency rooms has found, you know, machinery problems. And the last one that we can now do is have a phone handy. So if you slip and fall, stuff like that, have your phone in your pocket, stuff like that. So that's kind of how Mayo says get ready for shoveling for the season.
Those are excellent tips. And personally, I use snow shoveling as my winter exercise routine. So I'm always the first one out there. I have to beat my husband out there because that's how I'm going to get my exercise. But I wanted to follow up on that because if you aren't able to shovel your snow physically, really encourage you to talk to your neighbors. Most people are willing to help you out. And a lot of times you have issues that aren't visible to your neighbors. You threw out your back, you had a recent knee surgery, it's winter, everyone's at home. People aren't necessarily aware of the things that you're going through. So talk to your neighbors if you feel comfortable and ask for that help. Most are willing to help you out. And it also will prevent them from just doing like the gosh darn it, why didn't they get out there type shaking their fist if they understand what you're going through.
And I want to jump in and I'm going to say what Daryl said earlier to his daughter is, well, start asking about shoveling at your summer block party. Just talk about, well, I may need help this summer. You know, I'm going in for black surgery. I got to say, just start talking about early that you need help from your neighbors. That way that they can kind of plan for it. They can go out 10 minutes early and help clear your stuff like that. So think about talking to your neighbors before the snow's a foot deep.
I wanted to tail back on that. What about if you wear an alert on your person? I would do that.
Like a safety alert device.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fantastic.
An alert necklace or bracelet.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Even if you're out and about in the winter with our slippery sidewalks, that's not a bad idea, right? This morning we had an alley captain presentation where we heard from people just like each and every one of you, and actually many of you in the audience, who had volunteered to be alley captains or alley ambassadors or snow ambassadors, whatever your community, what your neighborhood calls that person. If you can't shovel, find out who that alley captain or snow ambassador is on your block. You can go to your district council. We have 18 district councils in the in St. Paul, Twin Cities. I nearly slipped for a minute. In St. Paul, and those district councils are there for the neighborhood. If they don't have a lead, they might have a suggestion. We do have a group in St. Paul called Saintly Snow Angels. They have a Facebook page. And that's the only social media I use, so I have no idea if there's anything else. But connect with Saintly Snow Angels. Those are people all around the city who are willing, who have volunteered now to shovel for somebody who needs help in let's say we're going to get our first snow in 6 weeks, okay? Anybody catch that? I'm hopeful, wishful thinking. Yeah. And also the Black Nurse programs. There's a living at home, a seniors program in my neighborhood. Some of them also have community members already identified who are willing to help with that. And by all means, talk to your neighbors right next door. So there are lots of resources. I'm going to ask Director Weesey a question. Now, what happens if nobody shovels, if you can't get anybody to help, if there's that one neighbor who I had a neighbor who went to Ireland for 4 weeks and didn't even think at all about his snow removal, and he was right on a hill. So, what can a neighbor do if everything else fails?
So the answer is to report it, and that happens in the Department of Safety and Inspections. So the phone number is 651-266-8989. But we have door hangers to get that friendly reminder of what the responsibilities are. Again, I encourage you to talk to your neighbors, make sure they're not going through something that you could help them out with. But the rule is 24 hours after the snow ceases to fall, the snow needs to be cleared from the sidewalk. So if you call before those 24 hours, we're going to say, check back with us after the 24 hours if it's still not cleared. So they get a full 24 hours after the snow ceases to fall to clear the snow. Now, as you know, sometimes in Minnesota, let's say oftentimes, you got to get out there like 3 times during the snowfall unless you want to be pushing a lot of snow. So most people are out there as the snow is progressing, and would encourage you to do that just for the ease of your back and joints. But that is the rule. So 24 hours. If the snow has not been cleared and we're notified, we send a letter, and we call it a blind letter. It's been reported to us. We send a letter that says, essentially, if you have not shoveled your snow, please do it. And when we do our inspection, if it's still present, we'll send it to get what's called abated, which means taken care of. And right now that's done by our Parks Department. We are looking at having that work performed by some small local businesses, and in order to let Parks focus on Parks property. But what happens then is that owner is charged for that service as well as an additional fee, and it gets put on their taxes. So that's a long process for something that could be done obviously way more effectively and faster if it were done by volunteers or by neighbors. And that's why, we're encouraging the communication piece, because some of these are just misunderstandings, or I forgot that it snows in the winter and so I went to Ireland for 4 weeks. But these are things that could be taken care of easier, but sometimes there is that person who just can't do it, just doesn't do it, an absentee person, somebody that's not really caring for their neighborhood and their neighbors by shoveling the sidewalk. The sidewalks are used by all of us, and that's what's important. And sometimes we think like, I'm going to stop right at my property line, but really the sidewalks are used by all of us. But that's the job of the city, that's how we come in, and the sidewalks are used by all of us. It is not only a nuisance, but it's a safety hazard to not have the sidewalks cleared the full length.
And it's an obligation. I just want to ask Director Weesey then one more question, and then we're going to go to audience questions, okay? Director Weesey, is that the same for a personal property, a residence, as a business? If it's not cleared, do you report it to the 651-266-8989? And does the city handle it the same way?
Yes, the responsibility is the same regardless if it's a business or a residence.
Okay, my last question, and then we're going to go to the audience, take your questions. My last question is, from each of your perspectives, should somebody shovel even if it's only an inch?
So if you were here for Snow 101 with Lisa, snow emergencies are typically called when there is at least 3 inches falling. The snow ordinance is anything. You get a dusting, go blow it off. any snow or ice on the sidewalk needs to be cleared, even an inch, even a half an inch, even a dusting.
So I guess the answer is yes. I mean, I shovel it all anyway because we have steps that go down the sidewalk, and you don't shovel the sidewalk down there. You're just creating a nice skating rink out there. Even a quarter of an inch gets slick. So, I mean, I go out there and I enjoy the snow, so why not go out and shovel it? So, I mean, I do.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I'm going to take audience questions. I do want to give a shout out to Councilmember Nelsie Yang. She has joined us. Can you give us a big parade wave? Sorry to put you on the spot like that. Council member from Ward 6, the city of St. Paul. So thank you for coming today. It's really awesome. So I'm going to hold the microphone, but I'm going to bring it around for your questions. And then there's a microphone amongst the three of you. If you could just pass it between you, that would be great. I'm going to start with Lynn, and then I'm going to go this way. Okay.
Hi, I'm Lynn Allenfeld, and I'm a community council member, but I've also been a walkability champion for St. Paul. And it is really impossible to walk in St. Paul in the winters for a couple reasons. One is the interfaces between the streets and the sidewalks. And people try and take care of that, but it's not effective what we're doing now. And everybody kind of shrugs and says, yes, that's a problem. But what is the city? I realize this isn't all city people, but what does the city think about that, and what can we do about that?
Yeah, particularly when we're talking about corners, you've traversed the sidewalk, you got to the street, now you need to cross the street to get to your next sidewalk. Always a tricky spot, even in the summer with water. But it is an area that we are aware of and trying to figure out how to do our messaging better about what the responsibilities are on those corners. If you have a corner lot, like, you have a lot of sidewalk. You have a lot of sidewalk if you have a corner lot, and then to do the actual corner piece where it goes out to the street is even more, because now you're dealing with what the snowplow left as well. So there definitely we're gonna have better messaging. If you go to the DSI tables downstairs, we've got some flyers that we're asking for your feedback on, because we want to make sure that our public messaging is clear to folks. But also we realize that sometimes you need help. In a given snowfall, it can be a lot. So trying to figure out what the resources are in the community where we can coordinate on those block corners.
And I'm Michelle, and I'm 71. So I qualify under both. When I travel, I think that I am responsible for clearing my sidewalk, the full width of the sidewalk, as well as my carriage path. And that I'm not responsible, since I'm away, to contract to get my yard shoveled. That's my property, correct? I just wanted to delineate as to if I'm going to get a ticket. Is it about my front sidewalk? And I would stop my mail, because the mail person needs access to my home if they're going to deliver the mail. But I'd stop my mail, and then I could say to somebody, would you please shovel my front side?
So Director, we see from DSI's perspective, what is the obligation? Is it just to the sidewalk, or are you thinking about my driveway and canopy and all these words that I don't use regularly? Correct.
To the
Right.
street, correct. So yes.
Good. Yeah, thank
So
you.
the responsibility is for the actual sidewalk, and really carriage paths are not required unless they are the designated path to cross the street. So sometimes there's like a mid block where there's a street crossing. That is the responsibility of the person in front of that. Your path up to your house from the sidewalk is not something that we're going to write orders on. However, things like the mail, there are other considerations. Things like the mail, things like having emergency responders visit your home for any number of reasons. The Jimmy John's guy, anybody that is coming to your home and who would, Yeah, it's not just the city.
Correct. Yep. So when you say the carriage path, you're meaning that little bit of sidewalk from the public sidewalk to the street that is really nice for you to let your guests get out of the car. The only time you're required to do it is if you have the connection for somebody crossing your street.
That is
Correct. Okay, great. Next question is with our friend Daryl here.
So the one thing I wanted to bring us back to is we talked a lot about having different partnerships in the community, and we talked about leaning heavily on those partnerships. How do we address things like um, the partnership with Metro Transit? I did not see them in the room today. That was interesting. Why didn't we see Metro Transit in the room today? They are responsible for about 450 bus stops out of the 1,200 or 14,000 bus stops that we have. So here's what I'm trying to say: the partnerships that we have. You guys assess businesses. You guys tax businesses in your city. It is the responsibility of your council members. And thank you, Nelsie, for being here today too. I appreciate it. So it is the responsibility of the council to set expectation of those businesses so that those businesses can continue to do business in the city. So I'm not saying that we should push all the pressure onto the businesses and not put any pressure on the residential side. But if we're allowing Carrie to move down the sidewalk and to get to an accessible bus stop, the partnership has to rely on your businesses and the people that you don't see in the room today, which is Metro Transit.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to turn that into a question, and I'm going to say, what about bus stops? So Carrie, I would like for you to talk about the impact of an unshoveled bus stop from your perspective, Tom from your perspective, and then Director Weesey from your perspective, and whose responsibility is it? We often lean on the business, but what is Metro Transit's role in all of this too? So there's more of a question.
The question, could you repeat the question? Repeat.
What is the impact of an uncleared bus stop on your life, your mobility, and your
The impact for
trajectory?
me is I'm stuck where I am, and I either have to struggle to get to another accessible bus stop, or I have to maybe try and call a taxi. I'm at a loss for that.
The thing we hear for the Council on Aging, Advisory Council on Aging, is how much concern it is as we have both age considerations and mobility considerations that come with age, that it increases the risk and the fear of the apprehension going out, and that runs into a tangential one about the loneliness because it becomes isolating for the person. And so it's a beginning, it's a symptom. There's a whole cascade of things that happen after that. But the lack of access becomes real key for people staying in their house for longer periods of their life. And so that's what becomes real key. The more access we have, the more we get people in their house where they want to be.
Thank you for that. And bus stops come in a variety of forms, from just a pole with the route number on it to an actual bus bench to a structure to shield the wind and to take shelter. And it's my understanding that Met Transit treats all of those differently as far as the snow removal, which I think goes to part of what's been said here, is that the experience can feel very different depending on where you are. And it is Metro Transit's responsibility, but as others have said, it's also really key to keeping that neighborhood connected. So if it might be Met Transit's responsibility, but it's in the community's best interest that it just gets done. So how do we keep that connection as a community?
Maybe our district councils can have an adopt a bus stop program, and they can work to have a crew to get those cleaned in their neighborhoods first. I hate to say we have to rely on volunteers, but if it's possible to do that, that would be amazing.
trying to adopt a shelter, that would really work out a lot, because as I said earlier, we have about 14,000 bus stops in our bus program. Only 400 of them, or roughly about 430 of them, are maintained by Metro Transit themselves. So that means that roughly about 12,000 or 13,000 bus stops go unmaintained or have a different management system, and they're usually a partnership between the municipalities and the businesses that they are adjacent to.
Thank you, Daryl. So about 1,200 bus stops that are not 12,000. Wow. Okay, great. Well, I have a question from Michael here. Michael?
Hello. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, everyone. Question for you. You had said that the property owners would be fined if they don't shovel. What's the cost of that fine? What's the average number like collected over the course of a season? And you said that you mail them a letter first. So like, what's the turnaround time on that letter, right? You get the phone call on Wednesday, you send the letter next Monday. You know what I mean? And last question, I promise. Regarding Metro Transit, if they are in charge of these bus stops, do you fine them for not maintaining them properly?
I love all of these. So it's not a fine, it's a cost recovery. So, which is an important distinction. We do not have administrative fines in the city of St. Paul. So it is a cost recovery. So it's a charge for the service to clear the sidewalk, plus the administrative fee to process all of that paperwork and get it onto the taxes, staff administrative hearings, all of that. No revenue. No, it's all 100% cost recovery but it's expensive. As we were talking about the alley captain work earlier today, I mean, you might be able to hire somebody to shovel your sidewalk the entire season for what it costs to have the city do it once. So really cost effective to do your own sidewalk work. Yes, we have to rely on snail mail. And that's why we send out the letter first. So there was a time in history where we used to send an inspector first, say, yep, the snow is not shoveled, and then we would send a letter. That's the reason why we send the letter blind right now. You get the letter, you might have taken it, you might have cleared the sidewalk in the time that it took for us to mail the letter. So you get it, you say, well, I already did this, and then you can put it in the recycle bin. And then Met Transit. So because of, I will call it the waterfall effect of laws, we have no jurisdiction over Metro Transit. We as the city.
More questions. More questions. Yeah, we can definitely create partnerships, and I really love the idea of a district council doing an adopt a bus stop. That's an absolutely brilliant idea. Are there any other questions in the room? I do have one comment. I did hear that the city of St. Paul should just hire more workers. And I think the city is really dedicated to that. I see some of my colleagues have kind of resigned looks on their faces because each and every one of them want to hire more workers. And we have great jobs in the city of St. Paul. They're union jobs, most of them. They get great benefits. If you go to stpaul.gov and put the word jobs in the search box, you will see all of our current positions. The city of St. Paul is just like every other entity in the world in that there's a workforce shortage, and we are hiring too. I would say, again, stpaul.gov, go to jobs. We would love, I work for the city of St. Paul. It's amazing to serve the staff. It's amazing to serve the public. I would love it if you were my colleague. Director Weesey.
I mean, ditto. I've been here 18 years, but I just want to put another plug in from Snow 101 this morning and earlier this afternoon, because the city is hiring ticketers to help with snow emergencies, because part of the issue with getting the streets plowed from curb to curb is making sure that there are no cars still there. So city is hiring ticketers. I think it's around $22 an hour. You get paired up with somebody. We provide the vehicle. We give you training. It's an excellent side hustle for the winter.
I'm actually going to go back up to our panelists because we're almost out of time. And I'm going to ask if they want to. I'll start with Tom. We'll go Tom, Director Weesey, and Carrie. If they want one last parting word, thought, recommendation, suggestion before our panel ends today.
Well, the other thing I'm going to mention is that you mentioned Black Nurse Program, living at home nurse program. On the back of here is the list of the ones close to you. So that's a person to call for resources. Now, these people just know people. That's their job, is to know who's in their neighborhood, who does stuff. I mean, they know people such as where the nurse food program's at. They know transit issues. They know so. So if you need somebody just to ask a question of about getting help, it's called the Living at Home Network. Most people have been around for a long time, called the Black Nurse Program, but has been Black and has been nurses for a long time. But anyway, there's a resource to call, and just call them, say, I need this. Who should I call next? They probably don't, they may not do it, but they may know who to go to next. So it's a place to start solving your problem with.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go to Director Weesey, in HERO, in the Department of Human Rights, we have several boards and commissions. And I just want to thank my colleagues for being here today. Carrie Sheldon is the chair of MAC-PD, the Mayor's Advisory Council for People Living with Disabilities. And it is their job to help the city do better, help us remember, help us think further, deeper than we traditionally do in our paths to hurry and get things done. Tom Eckstein is here from ACOA, the Advisory Committee on Aging. That's another committee and commission through the Department of Human Rights. They did put together this amazing resource guide for you because not everybody has a smartphone in the palm of their hand. Sometimes we just want the number without Googling it, and it is right here. We've got that for you. We have a couple other boards and commissions in the Department of Human Rights. Those are all available to you on this piece of paper. Afterwards, I can talk to you about it, about them. Director Weesey, what are your parting words? I'll give you my microphone, and then we'll go to Carrie and her parting words.
I think my parting words are just assume good intent. You know, we could all use a little bit more positivity, and first having that knock on the door to your neighbor, then calling the city. And I'm not saying that because, you know, we've got enough work, but it really, we're trying to build community here. And so, you know, knocking on that door first really just helps with that.
Thank you.
Respect each other and make sure that everyone has accessibility.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.